taking over.
So Mark here from Rock and Load. This evening I am joined by Andrew Knightley. Andrew is a frontman, guitarist and vocalist for AK and the Red Kites. The guys have just released their debut EP, Proverbial Storm. And he's here to talk to me all about the challenges of flying those kites in 2024. Andrew, how you doing, brother?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Yeah, good to be here. Just
Pleasure,
to point
pleasure.
out though, they're not literally red kites, not like the kind you fly in your hand. They're
No.
the birds.
Oh, is that what it is? Is that what it is?
Big,
Okay.
yeah, somebody the other day I had an interview, the same issue because so they're like hawks, birds of prey.
Okay.
People in
'Cause-
England probably know about them, but they're like they did a rebreeding program. But anyway, there's like loads of them where I live, like in the Chiltern Hills. They just kind of like like floating around kind of thing, barely flapping the wings and occasionally diving in and eating things. But yeah, they're pretty cool. So yeah.
I thought it was weird. I thought there must have been some sort of kite school locally, and all the kids are running up and down the mountain, with these bloody kites, and you're like, get off my land.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting because obviously when I read the bio as well, and I had read that wee story, I didn't realize it was actually birds. So very nice, very nice. At one with nature.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I live out in the sticks as well, actually, and you get to see some fantastic sights. We see the hawks all the time, but even I was driving home last week after a gig, and the amount of bats that came past my car when I was driving home was unreal.
Yeah.
So
Scary.
yeah.
always worry me. We don't actually get many bats around here, but yeah, bats are always a little bit I don't know, when you're sitting there in the garden and you can kind of see them.
Yeah, they're so erratic the way they move, so it's yeah, taking your life in your own hands. So listen, tell me a little bit, for anybody who's unfamiliar with you as an artist, tell us a little bit of your backstory.
So well, I've sort of been playing music since I was about 11 years old, but I was previously in more recent history in a band called Trident Waters for about 9 years. We did about 3 EPs and 4 EPs maybe in an album. And I actually, so the sort of story is sort of what happened is during lockdown, I kind of then moved out to like the Chiltern Hills, Buckinghamshire, just outside of London, really, because I was always in London before that, and started writing a lot of songs, looking out the window at the red kites as I was writing these songs. So that was how they kind of became prominent, in my mind, sort of thing in the creative process. And went to work with a producer called Mike Krompass, who's like sort of multi-platinum kind of songwriter and producer. Worked for all kinds of big names, but anyhow, he was over here for a little bit in Barnsley, so we went to record some songs with him, and that really started the project off. It just felt very different to Trident Waters, so it became a new project really. And now you've got AK and the Red Kites, but yeah, it sort of kind of evolved out of Trident Waters really.
Yeah, and so the band hadn't really come to a conclusion at that stage. It was just more a case that you sort of started writing. Maybe was it the isolation of COVID and the pandemic and stuff that took you in a different direction?
Yeah, I think so a little bit. Yeah, and it just sort of felt like it was sort of time for a change, really, to do something different. Because I've been doing it quite a long time anyway. So, and the music was a little bit not vastly different, but a little bit different, and I just thought it was kind of time to do something different. So yeah, I guess like a new life and everything, moving away, and yeah, it just felt like the right time, really.
Yeah, I'm sure like we're all guilty of it, regardless if you're working for yourself, you're self-employed, whatever it is, you're creative. You need something every once in a while, don't you? Like a fresh injection to sort of to remind yourself that you're alive again, ultimately.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's what it was really. I just wanted to try something different, work with some sort of different players, musicians, that kind of thing, like sort of test myself, I suppose, and just freshen things up. So yeah, it was exactly that, just wanted to kind of move on and test myself again.
Yeah. And were you frontman of Trident Waters as well?
Yeah. So I was a front man It's the same kind of dynamic. I mean, the new band at the moment, it's currently a trio live, but we're actually looking at maybe bringing in another guitar player, possibly keyboards, different instruments, different ideas as well. That's the thing, because it was quite a kind of power trio fixed thing, Trident Waters, whereas this project will probably be kind of, like scale up and down depending on the situation and what's kind of needed. So it also takes away some of those sort of limitations as well, musically,
Mm.
knowing that you can just sort of bring different players in and try different things as well.
Yeah, because obviously that totally changes the dynamic then, doesn't it, as well? When it'll open this the scope up as far as the songwriting, even the direction of the songwriting and stuff when you start adding in keys and maybe a different guitar player who can then maybe layer on top of what you're doing or take it in a different direction.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. It just opens it all up. I mean, in a way, previously I kind of liked the limitation. Sometimes, that limitation of being a smaller band means you work in a particular framework. You've got bands like obviously Muse and like Royal Blood are like a two-piece. I'm not sure they're a two-piece anymore these days, but it's like you can kind of create and craft a certain sound out of, because you need to. But this is kind of the opposite now, and it's like there's that kind of freedom to expand things, and try different things. So I'm sure
Yeah,
that will be happening as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever listen to De Wolf, Dutch band?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I think
Another
they're
sort of power trio, but again, in
yeah,
recent years have really experimented with, bigger, broader sort of bands and
yeah,
stuff like that there to get because again, as you say yourself, you just want to stretch yourself and test yourself and find out what you can do.
yeah, yeah. No, they're a great band actually. I did discover them about a year or so ago, but yeah, no, it's exactly that. After a little while, you think of all the things that you're potentially not doing and want to go and try try
Yeah,
different stuff. So yeah.
absolutely. And how did the introduction to Mike Krompass come around? I spoke with Mike a while back, actually. I spoke to him, yeah, he was actually at one stage, he was going to launch a project of his own. I think it was a band project, but he's probably too busy working with other people now to even chase that down.
I think no, I think he's doing it again now. Actually, he was busy for a while producing, but he's actually gone back to Canada. I don't know if you know that, but he's
Yeah, I
back
heard
in
that.
Canada, and he's doing Dead Romantic now, which is like his sort of
Yeah.
band. I think they're like a sort of five piece. But yeah, no, he at the weekend he was actually playing with Nickelback, not actually with them on stage, but like supporting them at some big festival for a couple of gigs. So yeah, no, they're pretty epic. So
Yeah, yeah, fair play to him. He seems to be a very talented guy. Apparently, a brilliant guitar player as well. A really brilliant multi
yeah.
instrumentalist. So fair play to him.
Yeah, definitely. Well, he played the drums on the album actually. Fantastic drummer as well as guitar player and songwriter. But yeah, he played the drums and I mean amazing drumming. Like when you kind of listen to the stuff, it's very prominent. And that was sort of intentional to really, bring those big kind of grooves and sort of, Bonham stuff, but also with a sort of contemporary sort of vibe to it. But yeah, yeah, sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the current EP then that you have and the sort of style of songs, you're saying it's not a massive mile away from what you were doing before, but how do you think it sort of reflects where you are now musically?
I think the songwriting. I mean, we all always say this, but I think the songwriting has kind of evolved and improved. I just think there's more of a maturity to all of it. There's sort of more of my own personality in there, because you go through sort of phases, really, I suppose, when you're kind of writing, and everybody's different, but you can sort of find yourself kind of chasing ideas and other people's ideas a little bit, and that kind of thing. And it takes a while, even like playing an instrument, it takes a while for you to sort of find your own sort of voice, I suppose. And I think that sort of comes out a lot more on this new stuff. There's just more of me in there, I think. Um, that's the main thing. I mean, it's still sort of guitar driven kind of stuff, but there's different styles in there. There's a slightly more contemporary edge to it as well, which was sort of intentional. And again, in that the same as with the drumming style. It's like a bit more contemporary than previously. But even the guitar playing, there's sort of less solos and
Yeah.
more song. The songs are a lot shorter as well. They were sort of always 4.5 minutes before 5 minutes. It's almost like sort of how much can we get out of this? But it's like most of the songs were under 3 minutes or no longer than about 3 minutes 30 on the EP. I think Devil's Stomp is only like 2 minutes 20 seconds, but it's all it needs.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just that kind of succinct kind of package where it's like, well, what don't you need?
Yeah.
That's one of the
You
things.
said everything you need to say within the 2 minutes or whatever, and
Yeah,
why waffle on?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
And I believe you, like when you went to record with Mike, you had a lot of songs initially you brought to him. So how did that sort of process of whittling down work?
Uh, well, we've recorded a lot more. There's a lot more as well, basically. So a lot more songs. A lot were recorded. Um, we recorded 16 tracks. I think it was 16. Was it 16, 17, something like that? Yeah. Um, and there was like 20 odd songs. So I don't know. Some just kind of like it's not even that they weren't good songs. They could have. I mean, they were good songs, but certain ones just sort of got left behind. Really, it was more about the cohesion, I think, than anything.
Yeah.
And having that vision, I suppose, sort of Mike was thinking, what can we do with these? What are the ones that are going to work best? And there wasn't massive amounts of thought in it, but I think for anyone, it's the same. Certain songs just sort of get left on the cutting room floor, probably only to be picked up later and like
Yeah.
recorded at some point. But yeah, so we just had to sort of like whittle it down. Initially, we were going to do about 10 tracks, but we ended up doing 16 anyway. So it wasn't as difficult as it would have been.
And
Yeah.
do you find it easy enough, like sort of letting go of some of those tracks, or like they're not like your babies or anything? You're crying yourself to sleep at night.
They're all my babies, all of them. But I've still got them. Do you know what I mean? So I sort of demoed everything at home. That was another, I suppose, evolution as well, was the constant sort of home demoing, which is something that I hadn't done previous to lockdown. So I got like Cubase and an interface and all the bits and started kind of playing around with recording and just got into it. So everything got demoed. So it's still there, for later on if I want to record them. So I'm not that sad right now. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you'll get over it. And so, out of curiosity, with the tracks that were left behind, any maybe future potential releases in 2024 of those, or are you sort of putting that to bed and maybe looking beyond?
Um, Possibly, don't know yet. It's genuinely not decided. I mean, there will definitely be stuff in like next year, definitely later this year, maybe. We're still going to do another single, like another video single from Proverbial Storm, which will be stronger, and that will come out in around September time. So yeah, we'll do that and then see. We might do another single this year after that. I'm not sure yet. Yeah.
Yeah. And how do you find the juggling aspect of the music industry? So obviously being a frontman guitarist, all that stuff, that probably is the most natural part of it. But then this whole management of PR and the social media aspect and keeping yourself relevant. Do you enjoy that, or is that something you find it sort of a bit tedious?
Yeah, I mean, it's not my favorite bit, to be honest. I think some people do sort of love that side, and it's just a sort of necessary evil that you've got to do these days. I would rather there were more people in the background doing those things, but yeah, like it's mostly me. So yeah, it is tough, and it's tough to keep up with it. So, again, like with it being a new project, you start with fresh optimism, everything's new, and you're like, oh, let's get the new website, let's do this, let's do that. But then after a while, it's sort of all these tasks. Like every day, there's a task. You've got to do this. You've got to send this poster. You've got to email this person. You've got to chase that up. And you've got to do this. You've got to keep posting on social media. So it does get a little bit, you know, tiring sometimes. But yeah, It's what you got to do these days. So
I know it's just part of the industry today for anybody trying to make it, isn't it? And
yeah,
what about your previous fan base? Did you find many came across with you?
I think so. Yeah, I think most people are sort of on board. I mean, the thing is at the moment is we played our first show as a band just this previous Saturday, like July the 6th. So we haven't really got out there that much yet. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the pre-orders and stuff, it is good to see the people that have sort of always, supported it and Trident Waters previously. So yeah, I think they're still on board. But yeah, we just need to get more dates together and get out there really and sort of reconnect because, it was about 9 months, I think, sort of that I hadn't been on stage for. So Saturday was a little bit heavy on the build up, but once I got up there, it was fine. It was just, it's like riding a bike, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
I need to get out there. Can't wait to, yeah.
I know, and so how do you want to attack it? Is it really just a case of trying to get as many gigs as you can across the year, the right sort of bill, sort of that fit the band?
Yes, at the moment, it's all a bit of a, you know, juggling act. We're obviously looking at things. We're hoping to get some sort of tour dates together for later this year, but it does need to be like the right kind of shows at the moment, and not just kind of go out there and book everywhere, and turn up, somewhere up north. I only say that because I'm down south, or like somewhere that's quite remote to us, and turn up and play to 8 people because that's not sort of fun for anyone. So
Yeah,
we've just got to sort of like make sure that we kind of manage it properly and build it properly so that everybody has an awesome gig when we do go out there, kind of thing, rather than just diving in and doing it for the sake of it. So it just needs to be managed.
I know everything has to be sort of finely tuned and measured, doesn't it? Because obviously it's an expensive game to be in, so you can't just literally do that shotgun approach, as you say, and just go out and play for the sake of it, because the mortgages need paid, and these things cost money running up and down the country in a van.
Yeah, no, it's very true. It does cost a lot of money. I mean, yeah, like I'm not sure people really register. People that are outside of it,
Yeah,
it's funny because they think you're making money and like you're doing this every night or whatever. And it's like, no, that's not happening. If you know how much money I've spent on it. So yeah, the financial side, it has to be sort of viable, and people have to sort of like take time away from work and other things, like you said, and there's vans, there's equipment, there's all of it, while you're out, and these things don't pay for themselves. So yeah, it's tough, and it's sort of got to be done the right way. I'd love to just be out there and going on an endless road, or for like 250 days a year if I could, but I would be homeless pretty quickly, I think. So
yeah, that's the reality of it. That's the reality of it. I
yeah,
remember talking to was it Nick Oliveri? He was a bass player in Queens of the Stone Age, and
yeah.
I interviewed him because he was doing his own thing in Belfast one time, and like literally he was, I think it was God, who was he touring with? His old friend, I can't remember his name now, it popped out of my head. Bjork Brand.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
touring with him, they'd done stuff previously in Crass and stuff, but they're doing some other solo project. But he literally was on this tour, and on the Thursday he was jumping on a plane to go the other side of the world to do another tour and then back. He says like literally he probably plays about 300 shows a year, and he says
Mhm.
like he has to do it, a for his own sanity, but like for just paying the bills, because like literally,
Mhm.
as you say yourself, now the reality of the music game now, it's very different to what it would have been 20, 30 years ago when you were getting paid for selling music. So
Mhm.
you have to be sort of be able to adaptable and diverse in this day and age, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you've got to look at alternative revenue streams and what you can do, and trying to get into film and TV if you can. Not that I've done that, but that's another way, to do it. And I mean, the streaming thing is always a big debate, isn't it, with
Mm.
Spotify and all of them, that they're not paying enough. But then there's so many hundreds of thousands of tracks going up there every month. There must be billions and billions. And the problem is there's so much choice for people now, which is great for the people and music listeners and anyone, you know. But for the artists, it's, you know, unless someone's kind of buying your physical product, you just don't have that kind of income from it anymore. You know,
Yeah.
you need so many plays to make the equivalent of, like, say, selling a CD or a vinyl or whatever. So you do need to just look at ways that you can make money and be creative, I suppose.
And did you think about that yourself when you were launching the current EP? Like, because I think it was one of, I mean, one of Wes's other artists. He was a pretty shrewd guy. He sort of works within the field of PR and Spotify, getting artists on Spotify. But I think when they were launching their own album, they were physically launching first, and then the only way to I think maybe they were doing the singles digitally, but the only way to get the album was by physically purchasing it. You wouldn't be able to stream the whole album together
Mhm.
until either purchase it or wait for the whole album to be released, one single at a time. You know, so it forced people into making a choice. Then, you know, so it's one way of doing it, because it's hard to know what is the right approach these days. You know, you need that revenue stream coming from somewhere.
Yeah, no, it definitely crossed my mind. It's something we sort of talked about, but I'd already thought it before that, you know. I mean, it's a good way to do it because people get the best of both worlds. If they don't want to buy it or they're not CD people or whatever, fine. And if you've got, say, like an album, and then all right, you put 4 or 5 in there, they've got half of it to listen to. It's
Yeah.
kind of a compromise, but if you want it all, then you got to kind of like buy it or download it or do something, you know. I think that's a kind of um like way forwards, like a revenue stream sort of way forwards on a happy medium, personally. And if more bigger artists did that, I think that it would
Become the
influence
norm.
other people to do it. But
Mm.
I think people are a little bit worried about missing out on their audience if they don't put it all up. And
Yeah.
they've got this music and people aren't really buying that many copies. And you're like, oh, I'm just sitting on these songs. Oh, I'll just put them on Spotify. So there's that temptation. But I do think that's a potential path, you know, forwards to encourage people to invest directly in the artist rather than just giving it to Spotify or whoever, you know. So yeah, possibly in the future we'll look at something like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
And like, what are the challenges that, obviously, 'cause maybe I don't even know myself, but what are the challenges for somebody like you who wants to put out their music there digitally and obviously get payment for that? Um, are there roadblocks, for example, for you to try and do that? Is it, I know Bandcamp, obviously you can put stuff in Bandcamp and people can pay there, but are there other online places that will allow you to charge where you get the majority of the cash rather than the other way around?
Um, Not so much about the physical. I mean, at the moment, this CD we're just selling directly via the website store and obviously at the shows and stuff. The distribution digitally goes through like sort of Sony, like worldwide distribution, but um, like the sorry, what was the initial question?
I'm trying to think of, like, for
Oh,
example, can you not put it
yeah,
out digitally somewhere where someone's going to physically pay for, say, a download
yeah,
of a song?
yeah, you can. I mean, like on Amazon and iTunes, like Spotify don't really do that. So Amazon and iTunes, you can still download, like it's like 79p a track or whatever. So you can do it that way. But
But you guys are getting a pittance out of that, aren't you?
yeah, I mean, I don't even know how much, you know, because I see very little in royalties, to be honest. But yeah, you don't get a lot. I don't know exactly what it is. And it's like 0.001 pence per play. When they download it, I think you get like about, I don't know, 20% of that 79 pence or something like that.
14p or something, maybe, if you're lucky.
Yeah, yeah. So you've got to do a
Hmm.
lot of downloads to even make that worthwhile, you know. There was a good site actually. I don't know how it's doing it. It's kind of backed by Dave Stewart, and it's called Trapped Music. And their idea was, or I mean, it's still sort of going, but it's still kind of quite early days for them. And they were looking at sort of basically people paying the artist directly.
Yeah.
So rather than paying like a kind of subscription fee for everything,
Yeah.
kind of go to the site. They have a sort of subscription anyway, but then they sort of just pay you to listen to your music directly, like a sort of one-off payment, and then they have access to it. But basically, it works out that you earn a lot more money that way, you know, and the
Yeah.
site takes a lot less. It's a lot more loaded towards the artist than something like Spotify is.
Well, that's
But
what's
again,
needed, isn't it?
it's
That's where
yeah,
the gap has to be
yeah,
bridged, where you guys are getting the 80% and maybe the company's getting the 20, you know, just for facilitating it, you know, because
yeah.
really that's where the whole industry's upside down.
Well, yeah, exactly. But the trouble with someone like Spotify is that they spend, I don't know, so much money themselves, I suppose. I mean, their profits aren't massive. So it's kind of to do with the way they're run, and they're such a sort of big corporation and stuff. But I don't know, that's kind of how they justify it. So like, well, our operating costs are this much, and it's kind of like, well, you must be doing something wrong because
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
there's a
Tax,
lot of
it's all written off in taxes probably, but like the
yeah,
money they're
yeah,
paying to some artists as well, not even just for the streaming, but obviously for the luxury of streaming those songs for them, like the Taylor Swifts in the world, you know, and
mm,
paying billions out to these people in advances, you know, and all this stuff. It's crazy.
yeah.
Um, and so you were saying then, so you obviously the rest of the year then for you is going to be just trying to find some nice sort of selective dates to get yourselves out there to showcase yourselves to the UK.
Yeah, I mean, things are, well, a few things are shaping up. So we do actually we are going to be supporting the Cold Stairs, who
Very good,
are,
yeah.
yeah, like really good band from the States and kind of, you know, like blues rock sort of vibes, in Hastings on August the 30th. So we got that one coming up. So again, that's a good, you know, putting this in front of our audience where we want to be kind of thing, you know, and
Yeah.
that'll be a good show, definitely. And we've got a belated EP launch at the Black Heart in London on September the 14th. So we got those two sort of coming up, which is kind of exciting. And then we'll just look to add some more stuff, yeah, later in the year. And then obviously next year we're just hoping to really sort of smash it and take it forwards, really. Yeah, so it's those two at the moment and a few other bits, and then but next year's going to be the big one. We're hoping to get on a, you know, be playing a lot of festivals as well, which always
Yeah.
helps.
Yeah. And obviously when you give yourself that breathing space and a little bit of time to maybe plan ahead as well, because 2024, now we're already midway through the year and it's in a blink of an eye, you'll be heading towards the winter. So yeah,
Yeah.
you'll be looking towards the better weather and festival season next year to get the some
Well,
dates on the bill.
can't be worse than this year, can it? I was going to say, you
Yeah.
said heading towards winter. It's like it's already here, isn't it? It's not.
Yeah. Yeah. It is 12 months of it.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, I don't know. Hopefully we do a good one next year. We had a crap one last year. I think it was really hot the year before, wasn't it? Actually, for a little bit.
Yeah, it was
But
weird. It was weird. Yeah.
yeah, and then but yeah, fingers crossed. Yeah, so some good summertime festivals next year.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
fingers crossed, indeed. Well, look, again, thanks for your time tonight, Andrew. It's a pleasure talking to you.
And you, thank you very much.
Yeah, and best of luck, obviously, for the rest of 2024 and obviously into 2025. And I'm sure we'll hear a lot more from you next year.
Hopefully, thank you very much, Mark.
Absolute pleasure. Sure.
Sure, we'll
Best luck
talk
again,
soon.
once again. Yeah, we'll talk again another time.
All right, nice
Take
one.
care, bud. Thanks.
Thanks very
Cheers now.
much. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.